Hello everybody. My name is Squaggy and today we're going to be doing something pretty big. We are going to be reviewing every single card from DZ-BT11, Symphony of Might and Bloom, the 11th booster set in Divine Z. In order to do so, I have developed a bunch of slides. When I say I mean mostly my partner Claude B has done all of it, if not most of it. So without her, this couldn't be done. Before we get started, a few things to know is that, this is mostly unscripted. I do have like notes on every card on like a Google Doc I have up on my phone, but for the most part, I'm speaking off the cuff. This is all about first impressions mostly. I'm just gonna try and give you guys a brief rating about everything in the set. Everything is not including Krysrain right now. As of me recording this, Fern hasn't been fully out yet, and I think Krysrain is better suited to her own video going over her, Stark, and Fern. This video, again, is mostly loose, so just feel free to put it on in the background. There's not a lot of visuals to it either, unless you need to read the card that I am talking about. A few more things. My word is not gospel. Please think critically about the cards that you are going to be spending money on, which I'm not going to be spending a lot of money on these cards because there's not much here for me. But I will still review them looking as though it is a part of a meta that I will be playing. And, maybe in the future we can come back to this and we can all laugh at how I got things wrong. So first, let's go over my rating system here. So the rating system generally works is that I'm going to give things on a scale of 1 to 5 trick stars. You can see him up at the top right. At 5 stars, a card is going to be in a meta deck. It's going to be very good in said meta deck and it's going to be played in high quantities. Think 4-offs all the time. At 4 stars, you're going to be missing one of the above, but not by much. Maybe a 2-off in a strong deck or a 4-off in a mid one. 3 stars, you're going to be missing 1 or 2 of the above, but by a fair margin. Maybe played in low quantities and also in a mid deck. Maybe. At 2 stars, it's not going to be particularly striking in any category, or it's going to be outclassed really hard by offerings prior. Maybe a 0-off in a good deck or like a 1-off in a mid one. And at 1 star is pack filler. There's not much reason to run it and it's not good in any capacity. There is a lot of that in the common and rare slot, but I will go through every card just so you know that we are not missing anything, okay? So before we go into the meat and potatoes of every set, there are some generic cards. By that I mean each nation got basically the same cookie cutter card that they gave to everyone. So for this one, first up we have this card called Inflaton Deflector. This is one of many. Basically, these are all cards that if you meet a certain condition, it gains 5,000 power. And when you put it on the guard circle, you can Soul Blast 1 if your damage zone has 5 or more cards or an attack is at your Vanguard. You can Soul Blast 1 and the unit will gain some shield. Every nation has this basically, and I'm going to give it a 2 stars. So 15k body is kind of whatever. A lot of things get 15k by default. All the good cards in your decks probably should do that by now. But the guard thing is kind of interesting, if not for the fact that any nation that would play it probably has some better guarding utility. I'm putting it at 2 stars because there are some applications you could do this in with like Buster Barrage in Brandgate or like Defending Roar in Dragon Empire, but I just think it's outclassed completely by the Shield Cycler, and there's just not a lot to say here. If you can't afford the Shield Cycler, this is not a bad alternative, but that's about it. Every nation also has this next card, Pretty Assistant Flamey. I just put the Brandgate ones. When the unit is placed from the hand during your main phase, you can discard a card and draw a card, and then it can gain 2,000 if your opponent has the grade less than or equal to your Vanguard. This kind of card, 1 star. You should just play like an energy cycler to dig through your deck. This is asking for a lot, but it's kind of an interesting concept at least. Not much to say. Then, Snoop Sentient. This is again one of many of the cards of this genre, which is when it's placed on the guard circle, you can Energy Blast 3, and it's going to gain 5,000 shield to the end of the battle for each grade of the attacking unit. Unless you are up against Sephiroth Gila exactly, this is kind of mid. It's a 20k shield, which is not awful. If there are some decks that could maybe place it from the drop zone to the guard circle, nothing comes to mind right now, but if you could do that, that would give you a big shield that is kind of repeatable. But I just don't see the application. I think there are way better cards you can use for shielding that don't take up a deck slot like this and are useless on board. Just so much more you can use. And Energy Blast 3 is a lot of energy these days, okay? So this shit's not free. Let's go on now to the nations, okay? This is a 1-star card. Sorry. Dragon Empire. So Dragon Empire, you may know, is the clan right now, not clan, is the nation with the cover card of Ars Virina. And as such, we're going to go over everything archetype by archetype, okay? Before we get onto the generic pieces. So, Judgment Blades equip Ars Virina. 4 stars. Now, I think Ars Virina is going to be played in really high quantities. It's going to fit very nicely on an end board. It's flexible both for ending games and guarding higher. You just kind of keep it on board with the new Trickstar in the soul. But I just don't see a way that Jheva is top tiered. I think Jheva is going to be pretty good. I just don't think it's top tiered. And thus I can't reasonably give it 5 stars. It is a really good buff to Jheva. It's a great consistency piece. And you're going to want to run it at high quantity so you can always see it. So that you can see the other important talismans like Strava Virina, but Jheva just isn't quite there yet. The hand is kind of middling. You need to see a lot of pieces. A lot has to go right for X Overdress to work. So, 4 stars. This is a good grade. Next up, Trickstar and Sandy. 5 stars. I know I just said Jheva isn't good, but hear me out, okay? I not only think this will be played in high quantities, I think you will basically always play this at 4. I don't think you would ever really play an extra Trickstar unless maybe you're really scared of Prison or really scared of something like Blankdemire that chooses, I believe. But I think that this is going to be the only reason that a modern Jheva in set 11 will be not just a real rogue deck, but actually a sizable threat in the metagame. If it didn't exist, Ars Virina obviously would not be as good because they're obviously meant to play off one another. While the deck won't be top tiered, this card probably is the only reason that they will be playable. You can use it really early to make like Mirrors Virina quickly. It can make stuff like one card, Braum Virinas if you have to. There's just a lot of application with this. This plus Apparasia, which Apparasia can call this, can immediately make Stra. There's just a lot that this Trickstar does by being a Prayer Dragon, a Talisman Dragon, and also protecting the card it crossover dresses to. This card is really good, and it's going to be the reason that if you see Jheva, it's probably because this little guy is going to be doing most of the heavy lifting of that deck. Next up, Blaze Maiden Isha. This is a double rare, and it kind of recycles your Virinas, or it can cycle back your Prayer Dragons in your drop zone, and for this I'm going to give it 2 stars. So there are better options already in Jheva. Jheva can be playing something like Cindy to get their Virinas back, and Energy is something you could sink into. You probably only use the green one for Energy, I can't pronounce its name, but you still don't want to use 3 to do an effect that Cindy does basically for free. The Prayer Dragons in your drop zone can be called really easily, unless you're really always wanting to make 5 material Stra Virina. I think this is asking for a lot in your deck slot. You should play Cindy, you should play a better card than this. You just play the Prayer Dragon you want to see on your board, other than this. I do think it has some niche applications. I don't think it's completely unplayable. It's actually quite good. It's just that Jheva does have better options for what it's going for. And because of that, 2 stars. Blaze Maiden Ardelay. This is one of those pack filler cards that just gives you like a swan effect that's kind of middling. It gives your talismans 5k shield. And this is a 1-star card. I don't think I need to talk too much about it. You don't really want it on your board because you want the Prayer Dragons. You don't really want it in your hand because that means you're running the card at all. And it's just such a narrow application, and all your Grade 0 Talisman units is exactly Trickstar and Sandy. There's not a lot of point. If you want to go for like a really grindy Jheva deck, maybe, but don't do that. Please play Jheva aggressively. Don't build it weird. Okay, next up. Technically this counts. Gatling Drop Dragon. If you're unfamiliar, this is an on-hit Energy Blast 3, and you can add any crossover dress ability from your drop into your hand. I have no idea why you would play this. It's not even a Prayer Dragon, I believe. I think it's a Tear Dragon, and I mean, it kind of shows in like the water and the art. This is basically unplayable. 1 star. Spoiled the rating here, but Drag Raider Sade, 4 stars. This is Werewolf Dragon's triple rare of the set, and it's actually really good. Werewolf Dragon is already a pretty good aggressive strategy, and this just kind of takes it up a notch because you can have another guy on board early, and you can kind of recycle a couple of resources in the late game. The front row space now is tighter with him around, which you'll see impacts a card later. And while this won't make Werewolf Dragon meta viable yet, I think it makes it a lot stronger. It's probably like the 2nd or 3rd best triple drive Drag Vita slop deck in the format. It gives you a little bit of resilience in the grind game, but Werewolf Dragon's grind game is still kind of poor. Nevertheless, the card is incredible in Werewolf Dragon, and it gets a 4 star as such. Really good, but in a really mid deck. Next up, Drag Raider Haris. 3 stars. Drag Raider Haris is obviously meant to work with Werewolf Dragon. You're supposed to Energy Blast 3, give it 5k, and then when your opponent will call guards, you can make them call 2 at once. I think some people were thinking about this in like Bafsagra. Don't do that. But in Werewolf Dragon, as one of the front row attackers, it's probably not too bad. It doesn't go plus like something like Latifa or the aforementioned Sadik does. so it's hard to find the deck space for it, but as a finisher piece, it could be kind of useful. I could see this run at really small quantities, and it is a decent card in a mid deck. So 3 stars. Dragwitter Daria. This is one of those filler cards. It gets 5k power, 5k shield. Nothing too impressive here. You have better things to play in Whirlpool Dragon. 1 star. Rockbound Edge Dragon. So this is a Varga support card. This card allows you to have a constant unit come back every turn, basically, with Energy Blast 3. Varga's currently energy sinking into Farhart and exactly him and Shura, so you could theoretically have some energy left over, and this is good in the grind game. When I say grind game in Varga's case, what I mean is after you've kind of retired everything with the full divine skill, sometimes Varga just doesn't have the hand left after guarding the next turn and your opponent survives the divine turn. And what that ends up being is that you kind of just end up playing Storm Slasher Beatdown. This improves that position when once you get into Storm Slasher Beatdown, you can have Rockbound Edge Dragon kind of compensate. Because of that, 3 stars. I think the card is pretty good. It comes up sometimes. I think it's not going to be run at 4 copies. I don't think it's that good, but it does help a fair bit in a situation that Varga finds itself in a lot. And Varga is already a pretty good deck. So 3 stars. Dragritter Isma. 1 star. There is not much reason to run this card. You can energy charge 1, which is nice. We just saw energy blast 3 in Rockbound Edge Dragon, but I just don't think it's that impactful. I think that you'll be better off if you learn how to manage your energy better, and the plus 2000 is restricted to exactly boosting the Vanguard, which I mean is kind of mid. So, I don't know. There are better cards to play in Varga, and there's been better cards to play in Varga before this card existed, so don't play this. Play like, if you had to play one of these back row boosters for just Varga, play Spark Spike Dragon, it does more. Next up, Venetial got some cards too. Rukaira. And for this card, I have given it 3 stars. The reason why is I do think it's pretty good in Venetial, but that's just the problem, it's good in Venetial. So it can give your units 5000 power. When you call it off the Vanguard Venetial, you can just draw a card for free basically once your Vanguard swings. And this is a nice quality of life roundup for Venetial. The issue is that that's not really what Venetial needs. Venetial's problem isn't that it's not efficient enough, it's just that it doesn't really do anything. It's supposed to be this super aggressive strategy, but it gets stopped kind of easily. It's not a bad card. Drawing cards is very good. Just, it's a little... It's a shame that Venetial is not very good in its Vanguard form. So, 3 stars. Heavy Projectile Dragon, Gohefti? Yeah, 1 star. If you're playing one of the Dino Dragon decks, that could be the Koro one, that could be Spinal Marquis, that could be Venetial. You're probably going for very aggressive lines. You want to kill your opponent quickly with high-powered sides, and you're really threatening Vanguard. And board control isn't really what you're looking for. Don't invest a board slot into this, right? So, 1 star. Soaking Draco Kid. Here we are on to kind of the generics. 1 star. There's not much reason to play Secret Bath, Dragon Cry, Hot Springs if you are unfamiliar. It's a set order that you can rest and energy charge 1. I don't really know what deck wants that. Maybe this the Dwarble Dragon? I don't know. It just feels very strange to have a support card for exactly that. But if it is cute if you want to play that. But yeah, it's a Charmnet for exactly that set order. It's just so strange how this card works. It doesn't make sense to support a set order like this, and it's only when you play it from your hand, so you can maximum do it 4 times a game, which by that point, you've activated 4 copies of Sequin Buff, Dragon Cry Hot Springs, which I just don't think is very feasible. I don't think any deck wants to do that. So yeah, 1 star. Dragritter Sal, 1 star. There's another card, I believe, in DZ-BT11, the one that lets your Vanguard hit the back row. If you want to beat a Station, exactly, play that instead. Don't play this. Yeah, don't use deck slots on this. 1 star. Dragritter Barret, 1 star. In any deck that makes all these big retires, you have more chunky units to play. I guess you could play it in Varga, but that doesn't make sense because Varga would have a back row booster at least and wouldn't retire stuff until after Varga swings, so never mind. There's actually like 0 application. Maybe Warble Dragon can be like a 20k attacker and Whirlpool Dragon, well, why not just play a back row booster at that point? 1 star. Stealth Beast Juso Ginkgo. When this unit is retired from rearguard circle, you can put it back to your hand. Then I have to ask you the question, why do you want it back in your hand? It doesn't do anything. 1 star. Stealth Fiend Yoka Shitamase. Because it's a stealth card and because it kind of has a soul charge ability, I thought maybe you could toy with this in Shoujo Doji, but it's not possible, I think. I think Shoujo has better cards to play, and if Shoujo can't play it, nobody wants to play this. So, unfortunately, 1 star for a very cute artwork. So, that was all the Dragon Empire cards. Overall, I'd say the Nation is a nice little 4 stars. Dragon Empire is pretty good, this format, if you're a Jheva player. If you like Whirlpool Dragon, go nuts. None of the top decks right now in Dragon Empire, Vegilla, and Buffsagra got any buffs, but this may at least kind of shape up the meta in a way where you could see Jheva at top tables piloted by someone who really knows what they're doing. You have to really know what you're doing with Jheva. It's not really just a pick up and play deck. It has a lot of varying lines and requires a lot of effort for what is usually a pretty middling result. Okay, on to the Dark States. In the Dark States, we actually did get a new right line completely. You can see here, this is the Growwind right line, and we are going to go over every card here as well. So, Gear Chick of a Promising Young Talent. This card gets 2 stars. I don't like its eyes. It's kind of creepy, but it's cute, I guess, if you like small little chickens. Steam Fighter Goomil. This card gets a 3 stars. It's kind of efficient in that it draws you 2 cards and then puts 1 back. That's nice, a good way to dig for your pieces, which you are going to need in Growwind. You can put back stuff like the Great Four that you don't really want to see in your opener because, you know, it doesn't work orderly. So, yeah, it's just okay. 3 stars. It's not bad. It really isn't. There are a lot of right lines who would love something like this. Bruce would like this instead. Gukishal, which is the grade 2 of the right line, is a 4-star card. Why is it 4 stars? Because it's really good. You can look at the top 5, choose 1 unit to call, and if you put a grade 3 or less, you can call it, or if it's grade 3 or more, you can put it in your hand. It's really strong, and if you whiff both of those, you can soul charge 1 and call it, so you don't ever go minus. It works in time stamping as well, if that floats your boat. I don't have much to complain about. It's 4 stars because it's really good, but the Vanguards you ride into it on Gear Dragons are pretty, well, let's see here. Time Spiral Fist Dragon Growwind Dragon is a 3-star card. He's not really that bad of a build-around per se. He's also not a meta-defining threat. The removal is kind of nice, but he's a Vanguard who doesn't innately generate advantage. So if you're thinking about Vanguards that generate advantage, or like just Vanguards in general, the good ones tend to have like 3 skills. Let's say Buffsagra. There's 1 skill that's very power related. Then there's 1 skill that tends to kind of either extend attacks or is really resource efficient. Like Buffsagra has like 2 of those, right? She has the resource efficiency of calling a unit back and energy charging 1. She has a power skill with the Soul Blast 2 to gain a crit, which is kind of the offensive skill as well. Buffsagra does a lot innately, and she has the arms to kind of supplement that. On another example, I guess it's easier to demonstrate, is something like Nanaclear. Nanaclear innately gains advantage by calling 1 at the top. It is an aggression skill in triple driving and also restanding. That's like 3 good skills in 1. Growwind kind of only has 2, and that makes it not as efficient as you would like it to be. And I think that makes it really difficult to build your deck around him. Still, he can make a pretty nice multi-attack if you can read the second effect by using something like the Boost Set Order. A grade 3 front row unit and a grade 2 booster to form a 4 and 1 column once they are bound, but you can't really grasp him without looking at his grade 4 unit. And here is Eternal Overburden Colossus, and this card is 4 stars. So I actually think this card is pretty good. I think you're going to be hitting the 20 or more threshold on your kill turn and only gaining a crit when you're in a position where it doesn't quite matter anymore because the game is going so long for you to have 30 cards bound. And that's not something that the deck wants to do. The deck wants to kill quite fast. It's positioned as a very aggressive strategy, and it probably won't get to the 30 or more mark very often. But even if you have this card in your hand, you can still kind of use it to smooth out your curve. You can draw a ton of cards. He's not a 5-star card, even though he does do a lot. He's very powerful, and he does generate the resources that Growwind doesn't. But because he's in Growwind, I can't put him at a 5-star. It's just in too mid of a deck. but it's very strong of a supporting unit. If Growin had just a bit more of an advantage engine in itself, like the ability to call during main phase, I think this card could be really good. I think the whole deck could be pretty good. But as it stands, 4 stars. Steam Shooter Amethyst. This is going to be one of the cards you call off your binding. You want to get this great one on board, and it's a 4-star. It generates advantage in exactly Time Stamping Dragon and Chronojet. It accelerates your binding and also is a good target to bind, so you can get the 4-1 column. Like, there's a lot going for this card. It's a bit weak going second. Not exactly going second, but when you play this on 1, it doesn't have an effect yet, unlike something like Philia. But it has so much synergy with the deck, I can't say it's anything less than 4 stars. Really good card. Steam Gunner Biralama. This card gets 2 stars. It's kind of hard to justify Energy Blasting 3 in a deck like this. You're probably going to Energy Blast on something else, maybe like a Cycler or Eternal Overburden Colossus himself. And the benefit you get for bringing him back is just like 5,000 power. The shield is quite useless because it doesn't gain Intercept. Just give this card Intercept, it would be a little better. But as it stands, I can't think of a way that you put this card into your deck. If you want shield value in your deck and you still want to play grade 3s, you can play Nocturzio so that it can proc off Eternal Overburden Colossus instead. So, 2 stars. Gear Frog of Rising Underdogs. This card is 2 stars. I don't really see a world where this is one of the great ones you slot into the deck. I think you would rather play something like Philia, maybe Finley, Folklore. Do you go with the Energy Blasting? This doesn't generate a plus automatically. It only works on grade 3. And I mean, it does have some utility in cycling back Growins or cycling back your Colossi. So I would put this at 2 stars and not 1, because it's not completely useless. It's not bad. But I feel like it's going to be hard to find the space to do it because there are better cards to play. Okay, let's talk about Drajult. So, Demonic Jewel Dragon Lavenjader is Drajult's 5th way to restand the front row rearguard. And it may surprise you, 4 stars. I hate this card, but I do think it does open up kind of an interesting way for Drajult to be built. I think the idea is that this is now the main target you're going to use with Magnus' skill, and it's going to restand as well. And in doing so, you're going to hit 5 drives, 3 attacks. With a boost, this should hit a better number than something like Lithos Arger, I believe. I think it hits 5k higher into a 0 base. I think that running more of him over Geodral is going to be the way to go, and Lavenjader also fixes cards on Ride Up. I don't think this makes Drajult meta or anything, but I think it opens up a really interesting pathway for Magnus Pure. That's what I think this card does, especially as another Demonic Jewel Dragon to be targeted. So another reason why I think Magnus Pure is going to be a real deck next format is Direful Doll Corina, who is not really for the Direful Dolls, and she is a 3-star card. She is Zagan for exactly when you are Magnus. But you can't have an Ignis Vanguard, you have to be exactly a Magnus for this card to work. And also it can recycle cards in your drop zone, which is nice. By recouping cards that you've Soul Blasted off Drajult early, it means you can get something back with Emposa maybe. Assuming Emposa is part of this pure Magnus deck. And with her only working on Magnus, I think using her and Lavenjader and trying your best to brute force the Persona rides could lead to a pretty interesting aggressive deck that is strong into board interference because you can rebuild off the soul. And especially once you combine this card with Magnus's main phase recoup, this card can build boards from nothing, and you can call anything in your drop zone basically with that. So I think this is a really interesting set of utility cards for Magnus. I think this could signal kind of maybe a moving away from just playing 4 Ignis and just playing Magnus as your right deck and not much more. And I think it makes it just worth tinkering with, which is nice. I think there is a world where one of the better Drajult builds plays like 2 Ignis just as an extra name to have in your soul, an extra name in your hand to like ride into maybe in a pinch, rather than being your endgame piece. Now, would it surprise you to know that Liao Odium got some cards too? Steam Gunner Ramji Marie. This card, 4 stars. This card is probably a lot better than you may initially think. It's not that great early, and it doesn't bounce out of the gauge like an Equinus Dragon, but she does have some neat advantages. Once you've hit like turn 4 onwards, her power is plus 10,000, which is a bigger threshold than what the other Colossus and an Equinus Dragon hit. for the Anachronous Dragon. If this has a booster behind it, it hits a better number than Anachronous Dragon. She's another target for Takedown Dragon, who normally whiffs. She has some extra shield, which is nice in a deck where sometimes you just get clogged on a bunch of grade 3s. I don't think it makes Odium a lot better than already is. You know, gone are the days where Odium's Divine Skill jammed on 4 ends the game, because a lot of decks are much tankier now. But my hot take is that with these improved searches and shield value, you may be looking at an Odium that doesn't just jam the Divine Skill on 4, like, all the time. It could very well be a deck that could grind out a little bit, like turn 5, maybe once it has accumulated a Persona Ride and all the Disordered Banes, and then it commits to Divine Skill. And because of that, 4 stars. I think this is a really cool card for Odium that doesn't necessarily power creep anything. It's just interesting utility. Steam Cutter Samuim, 1 star. Don't play this card. The Sword of Bane can be played from drop with the Anachronous or Colossus. Just play those. Please don't play this card. Would it surprise you that Omina Grugio got some cards too? This card, Shadowthorn Mage Coldbriar, 3 stars. The card is good, no doubt. Acting as a pseudo-ace unit and Ruin Collector, improving Omina's resource efficiency. But running a grade 1 that does nothing on 1 is kind of bad, because Omina Grugio, because it's a aggressive mask deck, wants to go second to utilize as many Persona Rides as possible to kill your opponent quickly. As such, in the 1 slot, you may rather be playing something like Folklore or Philia, but you'll definitely still run this at decent quantities, and because Omina Grugio is quite mid, I'm still going to leave this at 3 stars, but it's a very good card. It's pretty good. Omina Grugio's problem isn't necessarily its resource efficiency these days, it's more like the restand is pee-pee poo-poo bad, it doesn't do much, so yeah, we're going to have to think about that instead. If there's a card that gave Omina Grugio power, it would be pretty good. Speaking of which, it's not this one. Thaumaturge's Prodigy, 1 star. The grade 2 lineup in Omina Grugio is staggeringly good. Do not play a 15k beater. Cragbolt Decoupler. This card, on the other hand, 2 stars. It's not that bad. It just can't be played too much. Turning game booster is fine, but what I'm really looking at is the ability to recycle your Omina Grugios and give Omina Grugio 5,000 power. 5,000 power doesn't seem like a lot, but in Omina Grugio's case, it's actually a lot more than you may anticipate. Omina Grugio, if you go first, is going to be like an 18k attacker, and it's going to be a 13k attacker, and if you use this with Omina Grugio, it's going to be a 18k attacker, and 18k is really nice for Omina Grugio because now even a front trigger guard is going to be 15k, and put it at 1 to pass, which is really good. Like, it's a lot more threatening than it used to be. Omina Grugio guard numbers, you're gonna have to think about in a different way of like how it interacts with triggers. It's not as direct as giving 5k to a unit that didn't have Omina Grugio's guard reduction skill. So yeah, I think this card is actually quite good, but just you probably will play it at low quantities because Omina Grugio has better cards, resource efficient cards that you want to find early. Deck space is getting really tight in Omina Grugio. You have to play multiple of the grade 3, you have to play multiple masks, you have to play multiple of Omina Grugio masks, and then you gotta play the new card that discards 1 to draw 2. You have to play Ruin Collector clones, you have to play Misery Wings. It's very hard to find the space, but I think there are a lot of benefits to doing it for this card. Harp of Rogue Whale Danava. So we're here at the generic section. 1 star. Don't play this. If you want a guard card from your soul, play... I don't remember. Walk the Dark. Play that instead. Don't play this. Totaling Chivaberos. This card is kind of interesting. I mean, it reads interesting. Originally, I wanted to give it a 1 because the application is narrow. Order decks like Celsira would play different orders, and the top 3 is kind of a useless search, and it's not enough to put into your deck, and it's not that great on board. But because this card is just so cute, I'm going to give it the honorary 1 Trick Moon. The only Trick Moon you could have. Overall, Dark States gets a 3 stars. Nothing too crazy in this set, but hey, there's some nice stuff if you like Omina Grugio and Odium. And Grauwin is kind of cool. It probably will get more support in future, but for now, it is just a mid deck. And now we have Brantigate. So to start us off, we're going to go over the new ride line. And as you may already know, it is Prison's new ride line. Prison's ride line has got a huge upgrade. The last time it got a ride line was in its debut. So it's one of the later decks. It's one of the later decks to get a revamped ride line. alongside something like Bastion and Bruce, which are still waiting for theirs. We're going to go over every card here just so you can get a good understanding of what it does now. Okay, Aurora Battle Princess Ruby Crimson. 4 stars. I really like the bunny. That's the only reason. You don't even need her for the grade 1 skill to proc. I just really like the rabbit. Aurora Battle Princess Kyanite Cobalt. 5 stars. And the only reason it is 5 stars is because it functions a lot like Vase Rook's grade 1. Which it gives you compensation if you've opened the prison and doesn't add it to hand. And also, it just plays the prison from your deck if you do, instead of adding it to your hand like the old prison. And because you have to use the new prison, I believe, it's just going to outclass the old grade 1, who you had to add the old prison to your hand and then play manually. And that can sort of matter in some situations where you go second and you have to rest like a Vanguard to get the prison set up, or you have to call a rearguard just to rest it. There are some situations where that does matter, and because of that, I do think this is a strict upgrade. I think even if the prison is a little different from the one that you're used to, you will probably play this because it's such a nice quality of life upgrade. Next up, Aurora Battle Princess Frisat Peach. 4 stars. It generates advantage and starts your imprisonment stuff. It's just an overall improvement from the original. This does cost soul, which is no longer in surplus, in that your prison no longer front loads the soul by soul charging you 3 anymore. So this could hurt a little more. Like, it could make it so you run out of soul quicker, so you can't use Munas often, like in early turns, like 2 into 3. But other than that, the card is great. It's a strict upgrade from the old Risat Pink. And speaking of the prison, which has been mentioned in every card so far, we have Galaxy Eternal Prison Galactolus. So this card, 4 stars. Just because you can set it for free. If you couldn't set it for free, I might think a little differently of it. But because you can set it for free, it is a lot better. And the soul charge is a bit of a mixed bag, because in the old one, you just kind of raw dog got 3, front loading the soul for, like I said before, Munas. And overall, in a really long game, theoretically Galactolus will give you more soul to play with, but that will take a while to get going. And to get the 3 soul in, you're going to need like 3 turns of them calling out cards from the prison, right? Which might not happen every turn. They might do it thrice over the course of maybe 4 turns or something like that. So in order to get all that soul, you may have to wait a little longer, and sometimes you just can't wait. Which means you have to change up your deck, and Muna has been such a pivotal draw engine, it might take a bit of time for people to get used to maybe cutting her or running her at lower quantities. At least that's what I think about it. Still, in general, it's basically just the fact that it's such a big quality of life improvement for setting it. So, 4 stars. Seraph Clearlight, 5 stars. This card is great. Having a benefit on rear is nice, as you don't really intend to Persona Ride much, because you just want to jump straight into Pure Light as fast as you can. If you didn't realize, the imprisonment and power skills also work on the rearguard circle, so in a pinch, it is also great on the front row, just as a way to get stuff in the prison and as a beater. The floodgate effect she gives your prison is just okay, it's nothing amazing. It can deny a couple of on-place effects, but in this matter, I sort of expect her and Lianorn leading the charge. There aren't going to be too many on-place skills that have a lot of high impact. I'm not really sure if it's going to be in this meta or not. What it will do, however, is it's going to stop your opponent from accumulating resources. What I mean by this is sometimes your opponent will survive a Pure Light turn, and they're not going to have a lot to work with because they put a lot of their resources into blocking the multi-crit, multi-attacks, and they're just a little short on killing you. And what I mean by them being a little short on killing you is that they're not going to have enough ways to generate advantage off like the prison, right? They're not going to be able to call Dugma shots out from there and EB3 and discard 1 and draw 2 to keep building up resources again to survive another turn. If it happens next turn, again, they are going to die this time. And I think that is a fine floodgate to have. Like, it's nothing too broken, but it's just annoying enough that it'll probably win you like 2 out of 9 games you play in a big tournament, if that makes sense. Like 2 out of 8 of your tournaments, you will probably be like, whew, thank God there is this small little skill that stops them from having 1 more draw, for example. I do expect Prison to be a meta threat, even like in the later stages of the set. Prison right now already is a topping deck in like the rogue position, so getting even a small buff is going to help it a lot. And even if it's not super high powered, you are going to see it a lot, so you're going to want to have to get really used to playing against Prison and having a plan for how to manage their resources as well as yours. Aurora Battle Princess Flawless Leela. This card I give 4 stars. So you probably will play this in some quantity, probably not a 4-off because the space in Grade 2 is kind of tight. Your front row does want to be like multiple copies of Citrus to make the most multi-attacks. And yeah, you want to use your counterblasts on Life 4 Royal and on Citrus. So having to use it on the CB1 to draw 1 here might not be exactly what you want every game, but it's still very useful. And it's also a huge shield, which is nice. Counterblast 1, draw 1, even though I just talked about how it's not the best thing you could be doing, is still a pretty good thing to be doing. It also is another way to imprison. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that, but it does play into your game plan and will help you survive a little longer, especially as the metagame has gotten a lot more aggressive, with this set in particular having stuff like Lianorn in the meta. So look out for this card. I think it's going to be very useful in your prison decks, but I'm not sure if you're going to run it at 5, at 4, so 4 stars. Aurora Battle Princess Truncheon Orlane, 2 stars. With your soul no longer being front-loaded, I think more and more players are going to try to start cutting Muna. And because of that, I think you're going to have more Grade 1 slots to play around with. And I think Truncheon Orlane will be okay there. I don't think it'll be anything spectacular, but, you know, she does fill the slot. Adding extra of the Seraph Clearlight to your hand is okay, because, as I said before, Clearlight is a fine attacker, but you'll probably run maybe 1 or 2 of her, or at least she'll be experimented with at the start, so 2 stars. Aurora Battle Princess Warning Kaigri, 1 star. Don't play this card, it's not very good. Counterblast 1 to Imprison 2 is kind of expensive, and the payoff for that is you get an 18k beater, and again the front row is very congested in Prison. So 1 star. So now that Prison is done, and Prison, just to kind of put a bit more weight onto it, is that I do expect it to be a tiered threat, because she's already a popular rogue threat with a bit of a cult following. Her popularity will probably shoot up a lot, and she will be quite powerful with the cards previously mentioned. But as you can see from the screen, she is not the only deck that got support this format. Blitz Neo Mobile Heldentat, 4 stars. This card is pretty good. Adding 2 is pretty good, but you're probably not going to hit 2 every time. But even if you don't, hitting 1 is fine. Recycling a product means you can kind of like discard them for ride and like play it later. So you can keep other cards in your hand to guard with early on. And I think he is good. I think he will be played in high quantities. He's one of the best searchers in the deck. I just think Welstra isn't there yet. I think Welstra's game plan isn't very good, and it's nothing much to do with the efficiency of finding his pieces. I feel like Welstra can execute his game plan pretty often, but the game plan you are executing just isn't very good. Like, it's just not quite there yet, which is always surprising to me, because I always thought that Welstra is one of the better decks, but I don't know. I feel like Welstra will still struggle, even in this format. So, 4 stars. Capable Mechanic Fairfill, 1 star. Don't play this card. Looking at top 3, probably won't hit a product. It's very narrow of a search. And attacking just to gain 5,000 power isn't worth too much. A lot of the Blitz cards in Welstra, they have to operate or get you a piece guaranteed. And I think Heldentat does at least get you the piece a little more efficiently, or gets you more pieces, and can help you operate something by, having an order you can play. Not necessarily operating it, but you get to play more with your orders, and I think Fairfill just doesn't really do that. So, 1 star. So, full disclosure here, we're about to go into B Hero, and B Hero is not something I am particularly familiar with. I'm most familiar before it got the new Grade 3, and beyond that, it's a little loose. I kind of perceive it as Elodegma, but if you go second, you do lose, and it is a lot harder to execute. With that in mind, I'll try my best to give you an appraisal of these cards. So, Galactic B Hero Comet Elkis, 4 stars. If you're not looking at the text carefully, it is a Vanguard skill. It is going to replace the old Grade 2 right line and the old Grade 2 light line. And the old Grade 2 right line is not very good. So this is good. It scouts, it adds a base. It's just that it's stuck in B Hero. So all this plussing and filtering is just stuck in a deck that's kind of middling. Galactic B Hero Combinate Naichia. This card, 4 stars. Again, it is very efficient. Soul Blast 2 to draw a card when placed on Rear Guard Circle or Guardian Circle, as long as you play it from your base, is pretty good. I think B Hero can pay that cost, and drawing a card is always good. It's one of the bigger attackers you have, I believe. No, it is, I think, the same as Bolt Salos, I believe its name is. But I just don't think that B Hero has what it takes just yet. The plan of a big combo Brandgate deck is cool. I just don't think it has what it takes. I think it's a little too fragile to stuff like defensives and proper playing around. But I also know that it's quite cheap, and I think this doesn't really affect the price of these cards. So if you are looking for a strong budget Brandgate deck, I can't really recommend Be Hero enough. 4 stars. Now we're moving on to Impuldio cards. Add Volfront. 3 stars. He does something interesting with the gauge, and he is nice quality of life for Impuldio. He's one of the small ways you can make your V-Standard a little more threatening by giving it 5,000, but I just don't think it does enough to make Impuldio tiered. It's a good card, but you're probably also not going to run it in too high of quantities. You do want the grade 3 that is your drive checker. You do want a ton of other cards like the Energy Blast 3, check top 5. That's probably a better card than this. I don't think you can completely do away with cyclers in some capacity because you just want to draw cards and stay alive, or you want to discard the shield cycler and stuff, and that all competes for space in Impuldio, which is getting kind of cramped. But it's not a bad card, I just don't think you'll run it at 4. And as such, 3 stars, because it's also in Impuldio, which is just okay. Splash Outstander, 2 stars. I think the card is interesting. I think being able to kind of recycle a Persona Ride or something, or an important unit from your drop zone is good. Impuldio, sometimes if you take it to a really long grind game, can deck out, because they spend all the game filtering, and if the drives don't kill you, they might run out of deck. So this is nice to have. I would say maybe like as 1 or 2, you could try and squeeze it in, but it's really difficult to justify still. But I can't say it's completely useless, so 2 stars. Now we're on to the generics. Wielder of Foreign Atoms, 1 star. Remember what I said about the Blitz mechanic who checked top 3 being too narrow of a search? This is a lot more narrow of a search. It's also not very good. Discarding a card from the top of your deck is quite bad in Brandgate. There's not a lot that gets it back from the drop zone. I mean, we just saw the Impuldio card that does, but you're not going to play this in Impuldio, are you? I don't really know a lot of... I mean, there are set order decks out there, but you're not going to play this in Eva. You're not going to play this in Aladekma. You're certainly not going to play this in Arkwright. Every deck got an order searcher in set 2, so I don't really know why you would play this. And also it retires itself, so you don't really even go plus, even if you hit it, and your Vanguard is to be grade 3. There are so many restrictions on such a bad card. Gluon Collider, 1 star. I have no idea where you would play this. I am recording this on another day because it's a lot of cards to go over, and Fern just got revealed, so I guess this is 5k shield into Fern. It's good in Messiah. 1 star. The application is really narrow, and like the grade 3 in the grade 3 that was supposed to be in Eternal Colossus deck, this one doesn't get intercept either. It just has some amount of power and shield. It's not worth your deck slot. Don't play this card. Kukulia Imiter. When its unit attacks, discard a set order plus 10k. Don't play this card. I feel like I say this for every common and rare. 1 star, by the way. Discarding 1 for power just isn't something that you want to do in this game. Overall, though, before I get on to the next nation, which as you can see is Keter Sanctuary, I'm going to have to say that it basically is Prison, 5 stars. The whole nation is a 5-star nation this set, which is rare for Brandgate. Welstra card is good, the Prison cards are great, and even the Be Hero and Impuldio stuff is useful at the bare minimum. And I think they're all gonna see some amount of success from locals to regional events. So yeah, 5 stars. So now let's talk about Keter Sanctuary. Keter Sanctuary did not get a new ride line, nor even a new grade 3 anything. In fact, all their triple rares are rearguard support. And starting off is the Youthberg stuff. Knight of Sornov at Nefed, 5 stars. This card is incredible. It adds anything basically. It can add your Revel forms. It can make a guy on the board. This basically replaces 0, I believe, in the deck. It's one of the few cards in Youthberg that you wouldn't mind running 4 of, because not only does it make you go plus, but on turn 3 without a boost, it's going to hit for 15k with its auto skill. It's one of the stronger attackers for when you go into Exist. And I already do think that Youthberg sees a lot of success in this meta. You may see it in some of the foreign WGPs. I believe Thailand had a couple tops in pre-Trickmoon format, pre-Trickmoon ban format. So I do think Youthberg is very good. I think it's not as good as we hyped it up to be when set 8 was first announced, but it is quite strong still, and this is just gonna add to that. It's such a nice consistency piece, it's ridiculous that it even exists. And this isn't even the only good card Youthberg got. They also got Knight of Breaking War, Best Luthane. And Best Luthane is kind of like a maple for Youthberg. 4 stars. So it's a big shielder, which is nice, and it gets more power early as well. So it's also one of like the bigger attackers into an exist turn, and it just keeps coming back. As the metagame is progressing and Virgila is binding stuff, Bavsagra could still be retiring your board, and Prison is going to, imprison your stuff. Having a way to get back units for free without investing into another resource that you mind paying, like cards in your hand or counterblasting off, any fed. This is a good way to get back resources and play out a grind game. I think this is a great card. I think you'll find space in your Youthbreak deck to play it. Probably not 4 cards worth of space, but you'll find some amount of space, and for that, 4 stars. Silvermane Stallion, 1 star. Originally this was a 2-star card, but I realized that I was giving it a little too much credit. Not good. Maybe it's fine on the side, but I don't think you want to play this. Youthbreak has a lot of better options for grade 1s, because Ketter's Sanctuary has a lot of good options for grade 1s. If you put this behind the Vanguard, you could theoretically get a multiple boost, but just plays Field at that point, right? So, yeah, 1 star. Moving on now to Liel. Liel got a couple cards this set. Knight of Severance Celibant is 3 stars. The card is just kind of okay. It has applications because on grade 2, you don't mind calling this because it doesn't have an on-call effect, so you don't feel too bad for playing it, and it'll get its value later on. Later on, it's going to add to your column strength. It's going to be a good thing to bind to be very efficient. But the space in Liel is kind of limited. The back row tends to have stuff like Gargowns, Dissection Angels, Surgowns. So it's really hard to imagine a world where this takes up one of those spaces. And I'm just skeptical of it being fantastic. I think it'll be good. I think maybe my imagination is a bit limited in that regard. Liel does okay. It does see tops. It just saw tops in Singapore. It saw one person wanted it. But when I looked at their list, I just couldn't really figure out where Celibant would fit in, if at all. And maybe I am just being a little unimaginative, but I do think the deck is just kind of middling. Normally for these triple rares, you expect like 3 good effects, or like 1 really good one and then 1 good one. This is just 2 good effects, which to me just isn't enough for a card at this rarity. So 3 stars. Knight of the Vast Oswin, 1 star. Don't play this card. Do you know how long it's going to take to get this card to be like a 15k booster? Not 15k, I guess you can't physically reach that. Like a 16k booster? It's going to take a lot of time. Don't play this. It's bad. So, Raziel got some cards too, and I think they're really interesting. Wings of Lifebrook Soul, 3 stars. I really do think the card is okay. I think Raziel is quite middling right now, and even if this card was crazy, I probably wouldn't give it 5 stars just because Raziel itself is kind of struggling. The card is hard to conceptualize because it's a guard card and a way to improve your resources in a deck who sort of already has a lot of resource efficiency. Aerial Sage, I believe is its name, allows you to countercharge already, so having another one may seem superfluous, but this one doesn't force you to discard one. Extra Guard is a very good skill because Raziel tends to run like 11 shieldless cards, like 3 base Raziel, 4 Vita, like the Ace unit, like 3 or 2 of the Orders, 1 Gabuelias. It's a lot. So this could help with that, but I'm just struggling to see this bringing Raziel to the competitive forefront again. It does kind of accelerate a Liel Amorta tech if you are interested in playing Hostage Raziel again, but I just don't think Raziel has the resource generation in order to make that deck work without Sergown anymore. So, 3 stars. Drive Out Dragon, 3 stars. This card promotes a really interesting play pattern in Raziel. You're actually encouraged to run less Raziels in your main deck with this. You're going to use Drive Out Dragon to loop the base Raziel over and over again. This could theoretically increase some of the deck space for cards with shield value or make it really impossible to whiff the full Vita turn, like the 3 units callback. But it's also sort of weird where like how you get your original Raziel out of the soul every turn is going to be up in the air. Like I guess on turn 3 exactly, sorry not turn 3, turn 4, you could Soul Blast out for Divine Skill and you get it back, but after that, and Raziel does like playing a longer, grindier game, then what? How do you get it out easily? Like Gabuelius? But you're not always going to call Gabuelius, sometimes you use stuff like Rifistor, and you want Nilberis to set up the front row so that you can activate the Miracle next turn or increase your hand size. Speaking of Nilberis, the energy that this card would use, Nilberis wants to use as well. And Nilberis is very important to Raziel's game plan. And if you run less Raziels, you're going to have Rifistors with more. It's really strange to conceptualize this card because I do think it's an interesting way that Raziel could be playing, but it's just kind of hard to conceptualize in my head. I don't think we're going to run 4 of it, and I don't think Raziel is going to be tiered, which is why it's not 5 or 4 stars. but I do think it is good. I think there's a lot of potential here, and I'm going to call it 3 stars as a result. Knight of Ascendancy, Sageric. 1 star. Don't play this. Like, you have better things to do than call a great one that puts a card into your soul. Knight of Inviolable... Wow, I can't speak. Knight of Inviolableness, Eliseg, is also bad. Grade 2 space is tight. You have better things to Soul Blast in Raziel, like Dissection Angel draws, so don't play this card. 1 star. Okay, Alden. So, Alden got some cards this set. Knight of Magnificence Aval is the double rare he got, and 4 stars. I said it before on Twitter, but if you don't follow me there, Alden is one of those decks where this kind of quality of life improvement and ways to get more pieces doesn't fix the deck. Alden can draw and tutor a million cards, but unless you get really lucky in early rushing, you can't finish a game in a way that is meaningful and consistent. Aval is a fantastic card. There are so many rogue decks in this game that would love if you had a way to fill the soul, add a card that you want to add to your hand, be good on board either as an attacker or on booster. There's so much this card does, but it's just not what Alden needs. You're gonna run him for sure. He's going to replace the special booster that Soul Chargers won with Alden. Probably. If you're still running that, it's gonna replace that. But he's just good but stuck in Alden. That's his problem. He's stuck with Alden. Knight of Twin Beauty, Rience. 1 star. This card could be interesting if it had allowed you to re-add Aldens to your hand. Frequently what will happen is Alden won't be able to kill as per usual, and what you'll be left with is like wet noodle attacks in the late game where you have no Persona Ride and you're just swinging with really small numbers, and this could alleviate that if they let you do that. I'm talking about a completely different card entirely, and because of that, 1 star. It has basically no applications. So, spoil this one, but Trapezium-based Sorceress and Ellipse-worn Sorceress, they come in a pair. Basically, the Grade 2 counterblast to call the Grade 1. They gain power, boosting one another, and they're kind of Hexa Orb support too, but they're mostly generic. Because of that, I'm going to say 2 stars. I think they have some applications in Hexa Orb. I don't think they're bad. They're a column creator, sort of. It's fine. You get to do a scry. That's good. But even though I'm not familiar with Hexa Orb, I imagine that you do have some better cards you want to be playing in these slots. So, yeah, and even if you could play them, the only deck you could play them in would be in a deck that's already kind of pee-pee-poo-poo bad. Yeah, 2 stars. Sorry, Sorcerers. Purity Scalar Angel, 1 star. I don't really understand why they made it like this. Typically, Keter Sanctuary tends to keep their rear guards on board, so having one that relies on your opponent making you lose board and then you not having resources isn't really a card that you want to play. Even if they wanted it to be a card that was a comeback mechanism when you were down on units, this doesn't really make you come back from anything, so 1 star. This is very middling. Knight of Deception Quan, 1 star. This card is not Rokuse. It needs too much. It has to attack. You have to have a Great Deal Greater Vanguard. It has to be placed by your card's ability, and it's like only on his attack. It's not like even for the rest of the turn. Why would you ever play this? Unless the whole meta is Eva exactly, there's probably not much reason to get this into your deck. Jagigown, 1 star. Honestly, kind of funny. But just play a card that gains 5,000 power. We just went over some that already do that. There's a lot of those. It can't even be played in the right deck or anything, so what's the point? Maybe it's usable in Houndraiser? But I know Houndraiser has a couple Grade 2 rear guards already, so why play it there? If it had bonus shield or something, maybe it's playable in Houndraiser, but other than that, probably not. This could have been the Azor for Houndraiser, I believe that's his name, Virgila's friend. This could have been them, but as it stands, this card doesn't do much. Supagaon, 1 star. He reminds me a lot of Zacian from Pokemon, and aside from that, not much else. It has to be a Grade 3 rear guard exactly, can't even be the Vanguard. It's just so many weird restrictions on these commons and rares. And they're using really nice art on these too, it's such a shame. Okay, overall for Keter Sanctuary, 4 stars. A lot of the set was middling, but the Burk cards are so good I can't call it anything else but 4 stars. Keter Sanctuary, this set, it's not looking great. Minerva's still gonna be good, but as for new decks, not much here. I don't even think Raziel is going to be very playable, even with Soul. I think it'll be better. I just don't really see a world where this deck is crazy. Happy to come back to this video and be proven wrong, though, in a couple months, because I think Raziel has reached the point where it's probably okay if it was good. And other than that, Youthbrook will probably see some success yeah, that's about it for Keter. So let's move on to Lyrical Monasterio, a nation I'm quite excited about, because they got one of the coolest cards in the set, Krysrain. I think this card is crazy. Not crazy good, but I think it's crazy fun. And also, I think that Krysrain gets a lot better when they get the Shenri clone in November with the Lyrical Christmas set. But she's not going to have it on release, and she's not going to have it for this format, so I'm going to take it as she doesn't have it. And as such, favorite one of ever-changing Krysrain Cadenza, 4 stars. This card does round up a lot of Krysrain's old issues. The Divine Skill doesn't have to bounce everything, so if you have Mint on board, you can make a 5-attack Divine Skill turn. The little bounce helps a lot. You can bounce stuff like Friend Set and keep them safe. But I think Krysrain, as she stands, is not going to be much better than someone like Jheva, which isn't a bad place to be, and her hand can be quite bad because a lot of her hand is going to be the grade 1s and 2s that you bounced back stuck on 5,000 point shield values that she bounces. She's a great upgrade from the original, but she also has a lot of the same weaknesses as the original. I still think she's pretty good going first. Her turn 3 aggression really is quite good with the extra critical. A lot of the grade 1s are really strong in Krysrain, and I think there just is something there, but as it stands, you don't have a way to dig into new cards into your deck very easily, which have shield value, so giving it 4 stars. I think it's quite good. I think it's very good for a Krysrain retrain. I just don't think it's good enough to compete with what I perceive the meta game to be like. However, I cannot say the same about Empathetic Lime Armel, who, as my stars have spoiled, are 5 stars. This card is really good. This card is like Trickstar and Swendy in that I think without it, the deck does not come together in a meaningful way, and thus she's rated above the boss of the archetype. This card gains power, it draws a card, it spawns a unit from the drop zone, and it's not on place. It's every turn you can do it if you have the energy and you play an order, of which Krysrain has a free order she can play in high 5. This card's insane. It reuses the stuff like the Jewel Beast that you got with early on, or you can have a toolbox of great 1s with Tormana that you can call back. It's really interesting, really powerful. I think this opens up a lot of interesting ways to build Krysrain. Personally, I really like the toolboxy style of great 1s you call out with Tormana, and then you can keep getting the ones you want back from the drop zone. It's a lot of fun when I tested it, and I think it'll be a cool way to build it. And once the Lyrical Shenri comes out, it's going to be a great way to keep getting advantage back. I cannot stress enough how much I really like this card. This card is a 5-star card. I think in terms of power, it's great. And I think in terms of fun, it's fantastic. 5 stars. Krysrain did get other cards though. Dreamy Lavende Marilis is a 2-star card. I think a lot of people were kind of excited for this. But in the world I perceive Krysrain in right now, I think it's going to be a deck that plays a lot of high 5. And that's going to be your discard for ride most of the time. So it's going to be hard to get this discard for cost effect. And EB3 to call out a card. Energy is kind of in surplus in Krysrain because obviously when you activate the skill, you get to immediately energy charge 3. But you still have Mint. You now have Armel. There's a ton of cards that want your energy blast, and it's going to be hard to find the room to fit this into your deck and then energy blast it and then find it in time. You would reasonably only find this on your ride-ups if you are playing like 3 or 4. And if you're playing 3 or 4, then you're not going to be able to play some of the really impactful grade 1s that Krysrain does quite like. So even though this card does read pretty good, I just don't see a world where it's the card that you want to build into Krysrain. It's good. If you don't have a lot of grade 1s available to you, or you want to build Krysrain really pure, you could do a whole lot worse than this. I mean, she's super cute. Look at the jellyfish. But aside from that, I can't say this card is particularly good. Playing with all my heart, Tive. You know it's a bad Krysrain card if they don't mention a color. 1 star. Gaining 5,000 power is outclassed by Friend Set already. Not much to say here. Don't play this card. Considerate Helper, Lienrick. 1 star. Why would you want to put her back into your hand? It's like the Stealth Beast earlier on. There's no reason to put a card back to your hand if you don't want it in your hand. It doesn't promote an aggressive style of play. It doesn't promote good shielding. It's just nothing really. So yeah, you have better things to do in Krysrain. Overall though, I think Krysrain this set, fantastic if you like Krysrain. I don't think she will be tiered. Again, she has a lot of the same issues. Maybe not. Maybe saying that she's not tiered is a bit harsh. I do think she will be low tiered, like how I believe Jheva will be positioned in this format. But I think a lot of the cards in like the higher rarity spaces, slam dunks. By that I mean exactly the triple rares. The double rares just okay. But I think they did such a good job on these. If you like Krysrain, I think you'll have a great time with these cards. Really, I do. But she is not the only card that got support in Lyrical Monasterio. Artisaria got some cards too. Stylish Looper, Claciel is a 4-star card. This card is really good. You can save things like Luminol or Elise, dig for pieces. She can go behind Artisaria, so you don't have to put the tokens on the side. She can go behind Artisaria, so you don't have to put tokens behind her anymore. You can put them on the sides again. Unfortunately, she doesn't say the words activate Persona Ride or your orders at 5,000 shield, so it doesn't fix a lot of Artisaria's innate issues. It's really good. It's a really strong card. And someday, if Artisaria gets supported more, fingers crossed, this card will be seen as one of the greatest, and it's going to be a real thorn in your side. But as it stands, Artisaria is not where she needs to be, so 4 stars. Okay, technically this one counts. It says token units, it's in Lyrical Monasterio. This technically counts as an Artisaria card. Starling Voice Ramming, 1 star. Not very good. There is another token deck, obviously, that wants a soul and involves boosting token units. But even in that deck, you could play other cards. There even is another card in this set that I think is better than her. And speaking of that other deck, Juicy Fruity got cards. 3 stars. Petite Cute Stroin. So, 3 stars, right? It's pretty good. It's not bad. You get to draw a card. Now calling over doesn't feel too bad. It's a decent attacker. It's stuck in Juicy Fruity. 3 stars. Ephemeral Verse Latour. Also 3 stars. This is the card I think is better than the one I showed earlier. It's in Juicy Fruity specifically. But it does soul charge. It buffs your plant tokens. It's pretty good for Juicy Fruity standards. I think you will play this because Juicy Fruity likes having the soul. And getting soul early is nice. So 3 stars. Again, cards are good. They're just stuck in Juicy Fruity. They're good for Juicy Fruity, which is why they are stuck at 3 stars. And it's why they're also not 2 or not 4. Because you have to use your frame of reference here. It's Juicy Fruity. It doesn't do much. Apparently I just messed up every slide in on the Lyrical Monasterio ones. Cheerful Butterfly Flinda is a 3-star card. This is Marlene support. Marlene is not that bad these days. With the new PR, you can kind of have Youthberg at home, you know, the Korokoro boss, and that's not so bad. This card can find you Persona Ride or set new Marlene as well, and I mean, you can find Persona Ride with just counterblasting on Marlene, but this is another way to do it, I guess. It does compensate you for the counterblast if you whiff, so that's nice, even though that search is limited to top 5. The reason why I can't give this card a 4-star rating or something like that, it's because its second effect requires you to Persona Ride this turn. Why does it need that? I don't think this card would have been too broken if it just did it if your opponent was grade 3 or higher already. I don't really know who we're trying to protect. I don't think Marlene Beatdown is going to be the deck of the century. So 3 stars. I'm just very confused as to the limitations on this card, but it is pretty good. Okay, Arise Harmony for Tana. She's kind of interesting. You could kind of use her. 1 or 2 is fine. Just outclassed by what Marlene already has. And by that I mean what Lyrical Monasterio has. She has power. She converts to guard. She empties out the front row so that another unit can take her place with Marlene's skills. Seems okay to me. Just not particularly good. So 2 stars. Maybe you play 1 or 2 just to be fun. Moving on to the generics. Solitary Ward Esolina. 1 star. This gains power based for every 2 things and limit break 4. You get 20k of an attack and then afterwards it has to kill itself. I don't know why it does that. Why does it have to retire too? It's not even like, oh, it functions really well with some decks that call during battle phase. No, it doesn't. It retires at the end of the turn. This card is bad. Very bad. Why is this in the game? Who is this for? Passionate Lyricist Fatika. 1 star. Why is this in the game? Surely we can give it a power skill that doesn't have to require you to have the card in your hand as well, and so +1, and target something of the same name, and then the power is just 5k? Why is it on place? There's so many ways we can make an interesting card with all these, with like some of these caveats or with this conceit, but we are making bad cards. Why does this exist? It's going to end up in a landfill. That's bad. Elegant Repose, Nicety, 1 star. I just don't know why you would play it. It's nice that it has resist, but then you're protecting nothing. The whole point of some decks with resist or like resist units is that you can't touch good cards. Inductance Dragon in Virgilla is a good example. It keeps your Azure on board. 20k shield is good. 20k attacker is good. This is a 13k beatstick with no shield. Why does it need to be protected? Resist isn't a good effect on a standalone unit. 1 star. As you can tell, reviewing the commons and rares is taking a toll on me. I won't lose to anyone. 1 star. It's a 28k beater. It's probably the most playable of the bunch, but it's CB1 Soul Blast 1. Do you know what you can do with 1 Counterblast and 1 Soul Blast in this game? The Artisaria card gets you like 3 cards of advantage by doing it, and it's a 15k booster to the Vanguard. There's not a single deck where this is good. I don't get it. Really good into the Sephiroth Gila matchup, I guess. Gain 55k, auto kill Sephiroth Gila, that sounds nice. But aside from that, I don't know what they're going for. Do they hate Sephiroth Gila this much? Sharing Energy Curette. I don't even need to say it anymore, right? This is so bad. This doesn't do anything. It's limit break 5 plus 10k. This is an ultimate break. This is like a Glory Maelstrom kind of skill. I don't know. Why do they make commons and rares like this? Sunny Noon Mirade. 1 star. This one's also one of those weird cards like the Keter one that requires you to have less units. This card wants you to have units on the board when you guard with her so that it can gain shield. The issue is that a lot of the Lyrical Monasterio decks bounce cards, so it kind of plays away from that. I don't know, it's so strange. And lots of ways you can interfere with the board these days, especially at the top meta decks. Even the bad decks can do it, so why would you play this? Because you're never going to get the plus 10k shield. 5 or more, you would have to keep everything on board. I guess it synergizes with the resist unit that does nothing. There you go, that's the best I can give it. Overall, this nation, just because I like the Krysrain card a lot. I like Krysrain and her support so much. And I think the Artisaria card is pretty good. This overall nation gets 4 stars. But I think this is the nation which has the commons and rares that are going to make me want to do something I can't take back. So, 4 stars. If you like Krysrain, I'm very happy for you. Now, let's talk about Stoichia. I'm very excited to talk about Stoichia after those cards because I think the front of Stoichia is very strong. So let's start. So, as you have already guessed by now, you probably know by now, the new right line of this set is Lianorn. Lianorn got a sizable buff in both their right line and their grade 3 in Traumend. So let's look at these. Racing Wind Corfi, 5 stars, only because you need it to proc. Budding Sensation Gracia, who is also a 5-star card. It's basically just the Roroa right line again, and the Roroa right line is already really good. In a pinch, if you found no units, this is a fine thing to call off something like Parcia or Elvina. So, 5 stars. Hopeful Tune Rectina, 4 stars. It makes Lianorn's turn 3 unstoppable. Not like unstoppable that it's really good, but they can't deny you from the counterblast. It's a little bit slow compared to Old Roroa and, what is his name? Husk Dragon. They work on 2 immediately, so they're a bit faster. This is a little slower for what Lianorn is used to, aside from exactly old Rectina, but it's still great, so 4 stars. Okay, let's talk about the big one. Bandmaster of Blooming Dreams, Lianorn Traumend. 5 stars. This card is really good. Going second, you get such a huge compensation. It being a unison dress means Parcia and Atlantis are both online so much earlier. It'd be like if Magnus was treated as a grade 4. A bit of the debate right now is whether hard riding into Vivace is better than Persona riding Traumend, and I do think Vivace should be used as a Lianorn booster with a Lianorn skill, and you put into the soul for her drive effect, and you should Persona as often as possible. Lianorn Vivace on 4 has this small weakness, where like your opponent will probably take the big Rosariums or the Vivace early, and if your opponent pulls a defensive and you put a trigger to your Rosarium Fairy boosters, the reswing of your Vanguard is going to be really unthreatening. And normally it is accountable, like it is not that bad to account for it if it's a non-persona turn for Vivace. Typically that's kind of why Vivace doesn't see a lot of success right now, because currently having a turn for Vivace lethal just doesn't work as much anymore. A lot of decks have a lot better shield right now. Decks like, well, back then Buffsagra, I'm not sure if they'll still be as good now, but Buffsagra, Virgilla, and Toys all had a lot of ways to get a ton of shield and get defensives, which kind of pushed Vivace out. But with Traumend on Persona Ride on 4, that's different, because Traumend then restands with 33,000, and that's a lot to work with, in that it doesn't get stopped by exactly 1 defensive. Like, your opponent will still have to invest some amount of cards to make it 1 to pass. Traumend is 1 less attack, you can't really deny that, but with 4 drives and the numbers going higher, it is a lot more pressure in a different way. The way I see it is that if you think the game is going to go into a grind game direction, you probably want to play Traumend and then Vivace, but if you want to end the game on 4, you should be Persona riding Traumend more. A couple small other things, like the way Silver-White works with this card is incredible, because all your Lianorns are grade 1, so even if you have a Vivace booster, you still get another 5k. The power is really good on the restand, even on the side. It's quad drive basically, which is a great way for you to dig for cards. Once you hit turn 3, not a lot of decks are as fast and pose as much of a threat as Lianorn can, which makes me think that this deck is going to be very good. I think you're going to have to put in a lot of time into thinking about how you want to deal with Lianorn's big turns coming this meta. And I just think that she's a very strong card right now. Plus, my partner plays it, and if I don't say it's 5 stars, I will get attacked. Still, there's more. Artful display of United Hearts, more. 5 stars again. Even if you share this slot with Rosarium, and I do think this will still be run more than Rosarium Fairy, I think you run this at 4 or 3, just because drawing the 1 card is really valuable in Lianorn. Even more so than making the extra plant token. So, Counterblast 1, draw 1 doesn't seem like that much, but a lot of the time you will play Lagras in Old Vivace and you will just not take the Vivace because you want to draw and dig for another piece. Lianorn's biggest weakness is the fact that she can't find pieces very easily. It's all about hard draw, there's no search, there's no filter, it's just raw dog drawing it, and you're gonna want more and more to do that. It's gonna increase the consistency of your deck a lot alongside stuff like Sincerit. The thresholds you will hit with her, them, I'm not really sure what gender more is, but it's going to get to a really high point even with Silver-Whites that relative to having the extra 5k versus them or Rosarium Fairy, it's still going to end up being a perfect guard, or it's going to be too high to justify a guard anyways. It's also going to make it so it's a lot more consistent for Lianorn to end up with 2 of the big attackers on the front row. So if you thought double Rosarium was sacky before, now it's not sacky and it's just as threatening. So, 5-star card. Very strong support card. I have no idea why they keep printing these for Lianorn. Sincere Sound Image Yumiri. 3 stars, which might surprise you. Honestly, the card is not that bad, but Lianorn's slots are super tight right now. It's fine. It's honestly really reasonable. If the meta went in a direction where, let's say there was a lot of retire, like Vargas really good this meta or something, this would be a pretty good card to play. And going into the soul at the end of the turn is nice. I just think that, despite all that, it's just a little too limiting. No power gain is rough. Lianorn has a lot of better grade 1s, but I do think there are worlds where this card is pretty good. Echoing Ring of Fortune Shilians? 1 star. This one is quite bad though. This one is a bad card. Don't run this. Lianorn does not necessarily need more power. There are a lot of good cards in Lianorn, and this is one of the bad ones that you will find is outclassed. So yeah, Lianorn I think is going to be very threatening this meta, and if she's not, it's at least going to be very prominent this meta. So do prep your decks with the idea you're going to have to defend against really big attacks, or failing that, you're going to have to try and outpace Lianorn or be able to hit at her rear guards and get really good at understanding what Rosarium's thresholds are. Lianorn is not the only card that got support in Stoichia. Zorga got a good card too, which is surprising. Remain Smashing. 4-star card. The card probably will not be run at 4 copies. It's a little too specific for that, like it needs a very specific situation, but it's going to be really important in Zorga's game plan as a consistent way to get an extra attack in, creating more scenarios where the opponents are pushed to 4, so the RPDs are lethal, or in the late game at 5 damage, this is also going to threaten another lethal attack. That's already really good, but the second skill, while quite niche, if in an 8-round Swiss turn you use it once in like the grind game, then it's done its job. There are a lot of situations where Zorga players just find themselves without orders left, or they've miscalculated something, and this is a nice small insurance piece for them. I think Zorga is actually very close to being tiered, despite how much we joke about it. I think in every Singapore WGP from Season 3 to Season 4, there has been one top with Zorga. And I just think that this could push it over the edge. And so I will put it at 4 stars as a deck that I think goes into a tiered strategy, and you don't play 4 copies of it. So yeah, 4 stars. Very strong. Lookout Hunter Vigilar. 1 star. Zorga probably doesn't need Energy Charge 1. You can do better with the slots on grade 1. You probably don't have the space to run this. Between Philander, Harvest Elf, and this guy, what are you cutting? Go. Nana Clear got cards too. Nothing in the triple rare slot, which is surprising, but these cards are not that bad. One Who Arrived at Paradise Belnor is a 3-star card. It's a pretty good card. It has a Paradise name, and it really promotes the aggressive playstyle that Nana Clear has. A lot of the Nana Clear cards don't actually have any restriction on your opponent's grade, so when your opponent is at grade 2, you're going to be using this to hit really high numbers early, and it's going to have a lot of crit, and your opponent is going to just have to deal with it. It's a very glass cannon kind of deck, and because she's only a glass cannon, Nana Clear isn't her Nanoclear isn't quite there yet, so it's only at 3 stars because it's a pretty good card, but Nanoclear just isn't very strong right now. You could start hating this card in the future, I think. There is a world where we perceive Belnor with the same anger as when we perceive Roaming Prison Dragon, but I don't think we are in that world quite yet. So 3 stars. One Who Arrived at Paradise Flores is a 3-star card as well. So it slots really great into Nanoclear. Again, it's a One Who Arrived at Paradise name. Really good in board matchups and keeps you in Stray Garden very often. Both Paradise units, if you haven't noticed, leave the board at the end of the turn, so a card like Weaselin will have their shield value. This card is very useful in that it can give your aforementioned Belnor power or like Leaf Feather power, so that when it's resets with the crit, you will always have a high-powered unit attacking to force the most cards out of your opponent's hand as possible. And in a long game, this can come back a couple times. And I'm glad that this card can come back to Rearguard Circle, even if you already have a copy. It allows you to fill up the board very quickly if you have the soul to spare. It's just a shame that Nanoclear herself isn't quite there yet. These are 3-star cards in this current meta, but I really feel that in the future, if they support Nanoclear well, and I think she is almost there, really I do, we could perceive these cards as like pests. Like these could be the cards that you hate. Wouldn't you know it, Levidras got cards too, and they're at really low rarity. If you like Levidras, just pick these up. They're very cheap because they are all rares and commons. Council Erdis. 3 stars. I think this is the highest I've given like a rare this video. I cannot believe a rare is this good. Counterblast 1 to draw 1 is a kind of skill that you have on more, and then discarding top card of your deck isn't great, but it does have benefits like having something respawn with Huli, or if you mill Charm Net, that's a win. The stun is kind of niche, but it could come up, and if it comes up once in a 8th round tournament, then I think that's a fine skill to attach to a rare. A rare with 2 skills and both of them being good, the first one, I would argue being great, is very rare. Rare for Bushiroad, and they should really go in this direction for the rares and commons, rather than the ones that made me want to tear my eyes out. Really cool. Strangely solid. Fresh Green Clawfang Donora. 2 stars. Honestly, the card isn't that bad. If you put it into your soul for Levidras' skill, it gets you some resource back. But ideally, you are putting Levidras to your soul so that you can get 3 markers. The 3 markers are worth, I think, a lot more than either the CC1 or the Energy Charge 3. So it's not that great. It's kind of a lose less card, but you don't want to lose less. I want to win more. That's not a very good saying, actually. You don't want to win more all the time. I'll make a video on that at some point or something. But if you're a competitive player, you know, win more cards aren't great. But neither are cards that expect you to be in a losing position. It's got some niche applications, and I wouldn't say it's useless. So 2 stars. It's just hard to imagine this making a splash, but I don't want to deny its utility. Glowing Draco Kid. 1 star. This one I think definitely doesn't make the cut. It's just a bit too hard to find the deck space for something that doesn't get you an advantage or doesn't accumulate a resource for you. It's technically a guard card that has to already be on your board and makes you go minus. Don't like it that much. Yeah, 1 star. Okay, technically this is an Argo Siren support, but it is an Igo. It's not an Argo Siren support card, but it is an Argo Siren. So we'll view it in the realm of an Argo Siren, which is Rifania. 1 star. Technically generic, but it's a very niche card restrict. Unless the next format is all Control, Zorga, and Lascaria, it is very hard to see a world where I'm going to put this card into my deck that is unsearchable unless I play Argo Sirens, and then in which case I'm searching this out, and this is the one that I slot in just to stop exactly the Zorga Blitz Order or Lascaria's Blitz Orders. Very strange card in that I feel like there really is something here, but it's so niche and requires so much setup that not every deck can use it. I don't know. Maybe I put this in Magnolia for funsies. See how that goes for me. Alright, now we're on to the filler. I mean, the commons and rares. Marine General of True Tides. Bixt. 1 star. I don't know why they keep printing these 18k, 5k shield grade 3s. They're bad. I guess it's easy to achieve the condition, but I don't know. This is not anything you'd want to play this in. And Armor Piercing Brave Shooter. 1 star. The effect is actually really interesting. This is kind of like the effect I would imagine Omina Grugio having, right? This fits a lot in that deck, but for some reason it's here, but it's a bit overcosted. Minus 5k, opponents can play around that pretty easily. You're gonna have to put this on board, and it's unsearchable. This is asking for a lot to get minus 5k, so I wouldn't. think about playing this in your decks. And surprisingly, that's it. I feel like I've been talking for a long time, but that is all the cards in the set, except for the collabs, which I will cover in the future. So, what do I think? I think the set changes the meta a fair bit, with Lianorn and Prison likely to be very popular and very powerful decks, while stuff like Jheva and Krysrain are going to kind of come in at some points at lower tables, or even at higher tables, a good pilot, will get there with those decks. I think these are kind of interesting. For into those 4 decks, this is going to be a great format for you in terms of fun. The commons and rares, as per usual, are sometimes interesting and bad, but they're often just uninteresting and bad, and I feel they don't all have to be. I shouldn't be giving this many 1-stars across the board, and I don't think those are going to be the things that you guys argue with me about. I think those are definitely bad. We can at least make them interesting, right? This weekend, if I upload this on time, it's going to be Tokyo WGP, which is going to be our first look at a new meta. So you're going to want to really look out for those results. It's important to see what the decks, what good decks are, because it'll help you, buy decks, or it'll help you pick your next tournament deck. Or if you want to keep playing this format, maybe every deck in the meta is something you hate and you don't want to play this deck. It's just good to have that kind of foresight, and it's a good way to see what people perceive to be good. Finally, it's also the last anime tie-in for the year, and there's only one Divine Z cast member major upgrade, which is Mikoto's Krysrain. I thought it would end up on a bit more of a bang, but these are just kind of good cards. Like, they're overall very good, but it's strange that we didn't get more for the Divine Z cast, who should be at least kind of important, right? One thing I was thinking about is that, like, Zorga's card and Welstra's card are really good, but they kind of feel like we're about to sunset those decks for the foreseeable future, which sounds bad, but I think that's about to happen. In the anime right now, all the teasers, they don't really show Masanori or Taizo much, and I think we may be looking at the end for those characters being important in the anime, reduced to Omina Grugio tier or Astroya tier maybe. It's kind of bittersweet for those decks then, if that's the case. But if they're not the case, then this whole section doesn't matter. While there's not much in the set that I'm interested in, I think I'm exactly interested in Krysrain and Jheva maybe. If there is something for you, let me know what you're looking forward to seeing, what you're looking forward to playing. I will be trying to do some deck inspections for these, and if you've had me on in the background this whole time, thank you so much for just watching and listening, and you can feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. If you're mean, I will listen to them. If you disagree with me, I will listen, but if you do agree with me, I will say something nice to you. That's all. I'm pretty sure Squaggy blocks the final thoughts screen, but yeah, I didn't plan this out that well. I hope that if I do this in the future, I will plan this out a little better. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. I really hope having this hour-long video doesn't destroy my retention rate or how the algorithm perceives my video. But I do think it's fun to look at all the cards in the set and give them all a fair shake. Even if the comments and rares are obviously bad, you want to at least articulate why something is bad. That's all from me. Enjoy set 11 when it releases, and if you don't enjoy the set, enjoy another card game or something. Okay, bye-bye!